Let us understand this very clearly. Okay, the advocates the indigenous Harappan civilization, 3100 to 1900 BC. I mean, this different people might give you this thing because 3100 usually is taken as the beginning of the early Harappan phase, and we do know on the basis of ecological data that the Harappan civilization went into decline and more or less disappeared in the 2200, 1900 BC period. Okay? Since the Aryan invasion theory was dated to the second millennium, that is roughly it was placed in the 1500 BC, it makes the Vedas post-Harappan. I think this is an important point that cannot be overstressed. Okay? That is, essentially it postulates that the Harappan and the Vedic people were non-overlapping. Okay, that is a very important part of the whole debate that is now taking place, that has been taking place. So this introduces both synchronic and diachronic divide between the Harappans and the Vedic civilizations. I have borrowed a term from physics. We use the term synchronic to mean something that is time independent, that is not a function of time, and diachronic to mean things that happen at different points in time. Those who study physics will be familiar with the term. I think it's a useful term here to borrow from physics. Next one, please. So this is the basic point that we have to keep in mind, that the synchronic Harappan and Vedic are totally different cultures. That is part of the argument. Okay. So regardless of which time you look at, the two are different. Second, diachronic, the two flourished during different non-overlapping time periods. That means the Harappan civilization had run its course and practically become extinct by the time the Vedic civilization began to flourish in India and in the same geographic region. The Sindh, Punjab, Haryana, that area. Okay. This is a consequence of the refusal to revise, much less reject the AAT model based on new scientific data. This is somebody is trying to come in. Oh, have you? Okay. Next one, please. Yeah. So Vedic Harappan identity. Preserving the AAT, Vedas and the Sanskrit as foreign, requires separating Harappan archaeology from the Vedic literature and history. This is the central point of the dispute here. And so this is the real agenda. So the question is not the AAT. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, I'm sure there will be people who will dispute me on this, because just about any statement that is made today with regard to this will be disputed by some party or another. But this is now the real, even if unstated, agenda, or I should say the debate. Okay. So the basis for this is diachronic and synchronic separation. They're culturally disparate and also they flourish in different time periods, separated by a fairly long duration. Next one, please. Dropping the preconceptions about the Aryan invasion which unites the Vedic and the Harappan civilizations. David Frawley made a very important, I mean, I have had the pleasure of working with two very distinguished scholars. One, of course, David Frawley, who is well known to you. Another, not so well known, Dr. Natwar Jha, who passed away a few years ago, who was more of a traditional Vedic scholar, but also had a different our kind of education. So essentially, at the macro level, coming back to David Frawley, he points out that what this division, the synchronic diachronic division, which he did not use the document, but he points out that these two civilizations from the same area essentially separates archaeology from literature. So you have the Harappan people whose archaeology is well known to us, which means they have a history, even if we have not fully understood it. But they have no literature. But the Vedic people who have left behind a vast literature have no archaeological remains. So that seems to, this is a paradox which, in a moment of jest, I called Frawley's paradox. I meant it as a joke, but somehow people caught on, and now it is being widely used. So, but essentially, this separation separates Vedic literature. So you have the Vedic people, a vast literature and no archaeology, and the Harappan people with the immense archaeology and no literature. And what is more paradoxical, or makes it doubly paradoxical, is the fact that the Harappan people were literate while the Vedic people were supposed to not know writing. They are the ones who have left us the vast literature. Okay? So at the macro level, Saraswati is common to both. Okay? Both the Harappan and the Vedic people that we will show. Micro level, Harappan archaeology is replete with Vedic symbolism. That's the point that I will learn. So it is our position that the Harappan was a continuation of the Vedic and came towards the end, and it was essentially the Vedic triad. Next one, please. So I will show a brief video excerpted from a Channel 4 program created in 2002 by Graham Hancock. It was shot on site in India, and R.S. Bisht and B.B. Lal, David Frawley, and myself, we were consultants to that. Could I point out where it is? Could we go for a moment to close this file and same folder. Please open that. Please stay naturally listed. This one. This folder. That's cannot be opened. You need this thing, what do you call it? This media player. You can open with that application.